thank you for coming here today, Paula.
Pleasure.
Do you prefer books or ebooks?
I'm a book person. I don't have an ebook.
Why do you prefer books more?
Because I like being able to, this is weird, smell them. I like the smell of books, the feel of them, holding them in my hand and being able to flick back and forth if I need to check some plot or what a character said. And I like seeing them on my bookshelves, all the different spines and lettering. I love all that.
Do you write your first drafts or your initial ideas for your novels by hand, or do you just type them up straight away?
By hand, notes, try and get some kind of synopsis together, and then I have a kind of system where I get revision cards like you'd use for your exams, and I'm very old-fashioned, I've got a cork board.
Oh wow.
And I write different scenes, the skeleton of each scene, on a revision card, and then pin them onto the cork board. And a bit like a police investigation, because I write thrillers, as you know, I shift them round, so I try and work out the sequence and what works best. So I'm very old-fashioned.
Which young adult book did you most enjoy writing?
Well, I loved writing both of them, but from a work point of view, writing The Truth About Celia Frost was less pressurised. So in that way, it was slightly more, a calmer experience.
Yeah.
Because that was my first novel and I didn't have a contract, so I was writing it hoping somebody would want to publish it. So I imposed a deadline on myself, but I was quite nice to myself. So that was a nice experience. With Blood Tracks, I loved writing it and working it out, but I did have a deadline for the publisher, so the pressure was on.
Who's your favourite character to write about?
Oh, well, when you write stories, as you know, you get very attached to your characters, and it's hard to say because they might get jealous of each other. I think. Celia, I love, and Gina. So I love the heroines of my novels, but I also like Sol,
Yes.
Celia's mate.
Yes.
Love Declan, though he's a bit naughty, and I also love Janice, who's Celia's mum, and Frankie, the corrupt private investigator. I had a lot of fun writing Frankie.
E-readers are becoming really advanced and they now have many functions. Are these latest e-readers more appealing to you, or do you just not like e-readers at all?
Books are for me, but when I go on holiday and half my suitcase is taken up with books, I'm thinking an e-reader would be really useful. So I might be a holiday e-reader in the future. I'm going that way because the weight you have to pay for your luggage weight, don't you? It's costing me a fortune.
You write about some of the issues facing young people today. Do you think we're becoming too reliant on technology?
That's a really good question. It's fantastic, all the technology we've got. My worry is, because I've got 3 teenagers, is keeping you lot off the things. Young people, not all of them, of course, because you're all individuals. A lot of young people are spending so many hours per day on social media, on their smartphones, Xboxes, that my worry is that it's taking them away from getting outside, doing sports, pursuing their hobbies, and that I'm thinking. And the other thing is, it's taking time away from just doing nothing and daydreaming. You need some headspace to be creative.
Yeah.
And what made a big impression on me is I went to a gig at Rock City a while ago, and I was probably too old to be there because it was filled with students, so it was filled with young people, and loads of them, instead of jumping up and down and dancing to the band, loads of them had just stood there filming the band the whole time, and they didn't seem to be enjoying the experience. And I felt like going around going, put your phones down and get dancing. So it's that, not enjoying the moment, that I'm a bit worried about.
Yeah.
But each generation has their different things, and everyone gets through is okay, don't they?
Yes. Your young adult books are really popular. Do you think most of your fans will be reading them on an e-reader or with a paper copy?
Well, it's interesting because I do a lot of school visits, which I love doing, and I do tend to ask, because I'm nosy, whether the students are reading in book form or e-reader, and almost always, vast majority, it's books. In my experience, I haven't met a lot of teens who have e-readers, and they give me reasons like they love, holding it and having it in their home. So it's interesting.
Knowing that, does that affect the way you write your books?
Not at all. The story comes first, the story and characters, and you just have to write what you want to write. Yeah.
Your characters are really well developed, and some of them feel almost real. Are any of them based on real people?
Well, I try to create them, not from real people, because you don't want to get sued. But there's one group of people in particular who are inspired, rather than based, they're inspired, and they're the Duran family in The Truth About Celia Frost, who are from Ethiopia, and the refugees, and they're put on the Bluebell estate, the really tough estate, and the Durans are inspired by my Ethiopian friends who I met in the Sudan, and they were refugees in the Sudan, and then they were airlifted to America.
Oh wow.
But to a very, very rough, tough, gun-ridden neighbourhood in America. And I kind of thought of their experience, of that whole experience, and used some of that for my family.
Yes. What inspires you to actually write? Where do you get your ideas from?
Well, anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. If you're a writer, it's good to be nosy and curious, and to just absorb things around you, and to have an ear for something slightly different and interesting. So with Blood Tracks, it was an international court case, and parts of it were being televised on the news, and it wasn't the whole case itself, but it was one witness who under oath said something that I can't tell you. And as she said it, I thought, oh, that's not true. She's lying under oath, which is obviously a very, very bad thing to do, perjury. She could end up being imprisoned. And what she said got me thinking.